Hey, this is Bruce Boudreau, and you're listening to Empty Betters with Nick, Mack, and Harrison.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to episode 195 of Empty Betters. I'm your host, Harrison Scholes. I'm going to toss it across the screen to my co-host, Mr. Nick Nella. What's going on, buddy?
Not too much, man. Just getting 2024 off to a hot start. We've got some awesome hockey news to talk about that just came over the wire, I would say within the last 5 hours here. So a little bit of an unexpected hockey Monday, but I mean, is there a better way to start your week? I really can't think of one.
I can't think of one either, and apologies to anybody listening. Voice is a little rasp playing through what's going around here, so bear with me. We're gonna let Nick kind of talk through most of the episode and guide you guys so I don't lose my voice halfway through. But I am gonna toss it across to our other temporary co-host today, Mr. McCain Vogel is doing his world travels around the Midwest of the United States. So we sent it off to Mr. Nick Bowins up in Manhattan. What's going on, my friend?
Thanks for having me, fellas. Happy to be here. Happy to step in for the legendary Mac when he can't be here. Big day for hockey, like you said. So, it's getting to be that time of year where we got something juicy to talk about every day.
Absolutely. And you guys all know Nick's been on the show before. So go over to Hockey Collective. He's a part of that team. Show him some love on Instagram. Twitter's getting up there too. We love that.
Unreal shirt.
Yeah,
Thank
those are
you.
good
No,
shirts.
it's not doing well this year, but last year it was good.
But yeah, we got a big episode on tap. We're gonna run through it so I don't faint. But before we get started, just a reminder that this episode is brought to you by Brackish Life. If you're like us and grew up on the water and outdoors, then Brackish Life is perfect for you. They have a wide selection of gear from UV shirts to hoodies and hats. It's Real Bay apparel made by Real Bay people. Head to www.brackish.life today to check them out. A little salty, a little fresh. Brackish Life. Nick, I'm going to let you drive the bus today.
Well, I feel like we have to start the show with this, boys, right? I mean, former Team Maryland player and former Maryland resident William Nylander and the Toronto Maple Leafs have agreed on an 8-year, $92 million contract extension. This comes to us from Elliot Friedman. I mean, I'm not even going to say anything. Mr. Bowens, take it away.
Oh, I could go on for 5, 10, 15 minutes about this because I don't know how to feel, but my gut has said since all these rumors came out probably a week, 2 weeks ago there from Chris Johnston, you got to make it happen. You got to make it happen. You can't let this guy walk to free agency. And that's what Brad Tree Living basically has said in all his press conferences, right? It's a lot of money. Is it too much money? I would probably say yes. I think most of the world would say yes. But man, when you have a top 25 player in the league and he's walking to UFA, you can't let that happen. You're not going to trade him at the deadline when you have cup aspirations this year. So what do? You got to pay him. Does this suck for next year? Absolutely. The year after that, Tavares is off the books. He's going to have to take a pay cut because he's not an 11+ million dollar player anymore, and the cap's probably going up again, right? So it's an interesting situation. Even though I'm a Leafs fan, I agree with all of Twitter. This is not the way to construct a team. You can't build a team around four guys. You can't win a cup with four guys. I will say that 100%. But from where I'm sitting, this is one of the best players in the world this year. Yes, it's contract year. I'll add that in too. But I mean, you got to pay a guy. Like you, you put the last 8 years, I think he's been in the organization. Toronto has been where William Nylander has spent the majority of his life, he said today. Like that's nuts. He's been there through everything, the ups and downs, finally winning around last year. He is homegrown talent. You can't let that walk. And I think that's how Tree Living looked at it.
I love that take. And I saw on Twitter today, back when Nylander, I think he was like number 62, there was a picture of him with Kessel, and I think Phaneuf was on the ice with him, and they're like, this is how long this guy's been around. I was like, oh, damn. When you put it like that, that's pretty crazy.
He's been around quite a while, man. Before Matthews was even drafted, he had NHL games, right? He wore 39 in the show. He wore 62 in the show. He's obviously christened 88 this year pretty well, but yeah, I mean, he's been around for quite a while, and a guy that you guys know well, Brooks Like, he assisted on Nylander's first career goal after assisting on Michael Nylander's last career goal.
That's
So yeah,
insane.
he's been in the league for quite a while now. Like I said, when you have homegrown talent that shows out, you got to pay them because you don't want to lose them.
So $92 million right now, basketball and baseball are just laughing at that number. I think they're asking, wait, is that like his signing bonus or something? But speaking of signing bonuses, uh, is it true that it's $69 million guaranteed as a signing bonus?
69 million of it is guaranteed in signing bonuses. There's a lot of bonus incentive built in. I believe 27 million of it is paid in the first 2 years here.
Wow.
And it's a full no move clause through the entire duration of the deal. You can argue over that if you want, like whether that's a good move or a bad move from Tree Living. What's that going to look like in 5, 6 years? I keep coming back to the thing that if a guy wants to be here for another 8 years after being here 8 years and achieving, frankly, nothing, give him the no move clause. Like, who cares? It's a throw in the deal, might save you $3, $4 million. Just throw it in, whatever. And the way that those contracts are built, right, with the signing bonuses, that 27 million up front, it makes it so that it is tradable at the end, right? It's
Right.
basically front loaded. So, there's a no move clause, but I don't know, man. It's a lot of money. Do I
Yeah.
want four guys making what they're making? Absolutely not. But do I want William Nylander on my team every day of the year?
I think that's a great point you bring up because in itself, an 8 by 11.5 is almost a no movement clause without one in place. Like that's going to be very hard at any point to trade or to put a deal together with another team that's going to be willing to take that on. And like you mentioned, front loading that obviously takes away a lot of the pressure that would be on the team, he would be traded to. On the note of the four making as much money as they are, so it's now four of the top 15 highest paid players in the NHL are on the Toronto Maple Leafs. If you don't know who they are, you live under a rock. That's not my fault. But they're now going to be making 46.5 million against the cap next season. I know you said you're not happy about that. It just seems like someone's going to have to get moved here. Where do you stand in regards to that?
Dude, like logic agrees. I mean, I'm a logical, reasonable guy at the end of the day, and I'd agree with that. But what have they shown us the last 6 years? They don't give a shit about logic. They're just gonna bring the best players back. Like we've had this conversation 5, 6 times of they can't bring Marner back. Well, they did. They can't bring Nylander back. Well, they did. They can't sign Matthews to a raise. He's gonna go to Arizona. No, he's not. He's signing for 13 plus. He loves playing here. Oh my God, they can't sign Nylander then. Well, they just did. So yeah, there's always going to be questions. It's very difficult. If I'm sitting in Brad Tree Living's chair, I'm trading Mitch Marner, but I'm not. So, I think that's the way they're looking at it is we've got four of the best players in the league. John Tavares is still up there, whether you think he's slow as shit or not. He's still a point per game player. He gets it done
Oops.
night in, night out, right? Like that guy is a top tier player in the NHL still. So, is it way too much money to be giving four guys? Absolutely, but they're just rolling with it.
I feel like to give this some context, I got this tweet thread pulled up from Mike Kelly here. Um, he was comparing the Nylander deal to the Pastrnak deal that was signed last year. To put it in context, Nylander is a year older at the time of signing, earns $2 million more in total dollars than Pastrnak. If salary cap rises to the current projected increase next season, Nylander will likely make just under 13% of the cap. Pastrnak, when he signed, was at 13.6% of the cap. So if you want to do a little comparison there, I think that's probably where Willie was pointing when he was talking about dollars.
I think so for sure. And I think a lot of, I'll say, Twitter in general today took that the wrong way. Like 11.5 to 11.25, he's not better than Pasta. What are you doing? But it's the percentage of the cap, like you just said, Harry. That's what matters. That's what teams look at. That's what agents look at. So it's not apples to oranges. It's maybe Granny Smith to Galas or whatever your favorite type of apple is, right? Like it's a bit of a difference because the salary cap has changed. the money in the world has changed. Like that $2 million difference over the course of that duration of contract, that's less than inflation will be in that period of time, right? So
Yeah.
people getting mad over he makes more than Pasta just don't understand the inner workings of that stuff, in my opinion.
Those are
But
the
yes,
people
I'd
that
rather have
were
Pasta.
those were the people that were like losing their mind over the fact that Eric Carlson is the fourth highest paid player this calendar year in the NHL, though.
Yeah, it just, yeah, I don't know. I've argued with too many people on Twitter today, I think, about it, but should he be the highest AAV winger in NHL history? No, but he is because the cap is about to make its biggest jump that it has in the last 15 years. So we're rolling with it, right?
So we're in the business of hot takes. We'll have a little bit of those later, but we got to get a little steamy here in Leafs Nation. Marner's obviously the big name that I was hearing. If they got to trade someone, like no one's gonna take Johnny T's contract, blah 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 blah. So like, in what world would it take for you to move Mitch Marner?
Dude, like, I'll be completely honest. I probably would have done it a year and a half ago. Like I've been on that. There's a great show on Leafs Nation Network with my buddy Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill, who you guys obviously know who that is. And Rosie always says that Marner plays junior hockey out there. Like he's
Holy shit.
as Tyson Nash would say, he's trying to skill it up, and he gets points in the playoffs because he's that good of a player, but he's not a guy that is going to drag his line mates into the battle. He's not going to come out with a 2-1 OT winning goal in game 7 of a playoff game because he laid his body on the line and made a huge hit in the corner. Like that's not who he is. I always would have traded Marner. But I mean, it's so tough. Now they all have no move clauses, right? Like Marner's
Right.
kicked in this past July. What are you gonna do? But yeah, I mean, I saw an interesting tweet. See if I can find it here from Jordan Schmaltz today. Great Twitter follow if you guys aren't. He is all over it. But he tweeted about Tavares's deal this year. Scrolling. His salary next year is 910K. Signing
Wow.
bonus is 7 million.
Ooh.
So if Tavares were to move his no move clause or waive it, I don't think he would. I think he loves playing in Toronto. He's with family. I think he wants to stay. But if he were to, the team trading for him is only paying 900 grand against salary cap for Tavares. So if you're a team that's up against the cap, I don't know, use Boston. Pray to God he doesn't go there, but use Boston as example, right? They're always looking for centers up against the cap. Would you not take John Tavares at basically point per game pace at 900 grand? Absolutely, you would. So it all comes down to what the players want to do because in Toronto, the players have all the say, but the salary stuff makes it interesting there.
Could you send that to Brian McClellan real quick, just so he has that for future reference?
Uh, he wouldn't do anything about it.
No, not a damn thing.
Is it bad? My brain went to the Islanders there, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that too. Oh God.
Uncle Lou.
Ugh, he's gonna do it again. Let's move on from one NHL superstar to another. So Connor Bedard suffered a broken jaw in the Hawks game against the Devils last Friday night. He's currently on IR, listed as out indefinitely. A bunch of the Hawks players were upset. They were calling this a dirty hit. What did you guys think about the play and then the subsequent injury in it of itself?
So I saw quite a few Twitter replies that would agree with me. Maybe this is a hot take. Maybe some people will be pissed off. I really didn't think it was that bad. I was actually surprised his jaw got broken just from watching the replay, even in real time. I know slow-mo sometimes can kind of shift people's perspectives, but even real time, I didn't really think it was that bad. I'm pretty sure um name Blackhawks coach, name escaped me, Richardson. I'm pretty sure he even said in his post-game press conference, yeah, I think Brendan Smith was just making a good hard play. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure I saw that.
Yep, that's a quote. He said Smith stopped up and Bedard skated into him. He said there's no intent there, and I totally agree. To your point of how did he break his jaw? Man, that stuff, like when you're traveling at that speed, it's as simple as he had his mouth open too far. Like
Yep.
that's all it was in that, right? It's not a big impact, it's not a big hit. I would be very curious if Brendan Smith got credited for a hit on that play. Like he was basically standing still, man. That's just what happens. So, it's it sucks for the game first and foremost. That's the future face of the franchise if he's not already there. Sorry, of the league if he's not already there. And we want him in the All-Star game. He's an amazing talent. It sucks that he's gonna miss. I'd pencil it at about a month is what I've heard. It sucks that he's gonna miss that, but man, that's a hockey play. You step across the blue line, you lose control of the puck, you stick your arms out and reach for it. Somebody's gonna bump into you. Somebody's gonna hit you next time. Maybe like it's a hockey play, man. That's yeah, it's crazy that there was an uproar over that. But I will say to the people saying that you don't have to fight after every clean hit, you don't. But when the face of the franchise is laying on the ice, clenching his jaw, Nick Foligno did exactly what he's supposed to do. That's
Right.
exactly what Nick Foligno was brought in to do. That's exactly why Nick Foligno is one of the best dudes in the NHL. He did exactly what he was supposed to do there.
I totally agree because the whole like now every time there is a like medium to large collision on the ice, we see gloves and sticks go everywhere, and it's like, okay, boys, settle down because now we've got 20 penalties that we didn't need to sort through that we have. 100%. You protect your superstar, 18 years old. Of course, you got to stand up for him and go after the guy.
100%. I was listening to 32 Thoughts a bit ago, doing some research for the pod. And they brought up, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but Bill McCreary's hit on Wayne Gretzky in 81, I think it was, and basically said it was a similar looking play, honestly, if you watch it back, very similar there. And when McCreary got to the bench, like none of his buddies tapped him on the back, none of them clapped, none of them cheered anything. They turned to him and said, are you trying to get us all killed? Like, what are you doing here? That's not the game we're in now. Nobody said that to Brendan Smith. Like he doesn't have to worry about getting jumped out there. But credit to him for, he paid the piper. He stood up. He fought Foligno. That's it. We're done. It was not a bad hit by any means.
And then, of course, the next game when he's out, they literally fielded the worst NHL team I think I've ever seen on paper and won. It's escaping me who they beat.
Calgary.
Yeah, I think it was a 4-3 win. That's crazy. Their first line is Donato, Reichel, and Kurashev. Like, I just don't even understand how that's possible.
I believe my boy Colin Blackwell had 2 goals that game, which I love to see. He had a great quote after about like nobody has ever thought I was a good player, so I love scoring 2 goals, and especially in a game like this where the whole world's against us. Love Blackwell. He's a great dude. But yeah, I mean, be honest, how many of those forwards would you take on your team right now?
Not many.
Not
4,
many.
5? Like Reichel will be good. Gutman will be good. Dickinson's probably going to be in the All-Star game for crying out loud.
Right.
Donato, Blackwell, that might be it, man. Like
Yeah.
their top 6 might make other teams in the NHL.
And I think you alluded to this a little bit earlier, but like now that the face of the NHL and obviously the face of that franchise is out for a month, what is that going to do to Hawks ticket sales with, let's be honest, without Bedard this year would probably be non-existent.
Oh man, I can't imagine going to watch a game right now. Like if you bought seasons tickets just because you knew Bedard was coming and now he's out for the next month plus, that's gotta be hurting your wallet. But man, that's just a bad team.
Yeah.
They're in the market for that #1 pick again. I mean, they're 5 points ahead of the Sharks, who's their competition. So we'll see what happens. I guess.
Would you be pissed if they got it?
Oh, yeah.
If they got it in back-to-back years, I would be pissed.
They're the new Oilers at that point. Like,
yeah, we weren't thrilled when they got it the first time, so I think the second time around would be a little bit much.
Exactly. There's a bit of a narrative of like, oh, we want another Taves and Kane duo. Like, bring Celebrini to Chicago. And I'm like,
right.
no, send him anywhere else. If you've seen at all how big this has been for Chicago to have 1 star, send the star to San Jose.
I was going to say, how bad do the Sharks need a first overall pick? I mean, come on.
Crazy.
Him and Will Smith, they could be a little good duo over there.
That would be fun.
I'd take that. Eklund, Zetterlund on the wing. That'd be a pretty solid line.
Sure. We had a trade break about an hour and a half ago, so love when that sneaks in right before we record. Thanks for coming. The Flyers and the Ducks got a little frisky. Cutter Gauthier is going to Anaheim in exchange for Jamie Drysdale and a second-round pick. Gauthier just led all the World Junior Championship players with points, he had 12 of them. And per Frank Saravelli, Gauthier was not interested in playing in Philadelphia. Boys, gut reactions on this deal.
Harry, you go.
You had the flaming Twitter take that I think's gonna blow up, so I'll let you take the floor.
Man, I think it's a good deal for the Ducks. Um, or sorry, for the Flyers. I said that backwards, of course. There goes the clip, but Jamie Drysdale is exactly what you're looking for in a defenseman today in the NHL. Super mobile, can quarterback power play one-man breakout machine, and the Flyers don't really have that. I think they thought Cam York was going to be that for them. I don't really see it. That's a great fit. Very curious how he fits under Torts is something I just thought of because that guy's
Yeah.
that guy's a puck first player, we'll say. But I mean, I love this deal for the Flyers. If you got a dude who even a little bit doesn't want to be there, and it's not even that he stormed in there and said, Danny Briere, F you, I'm never gonna play in Philadelphia. It was just I don't know if I'm ready to sign here or not. Like I was really looking forward to playing on the beach. Like if a guy says that once, get him out of there. Get him out of there. If he doesn't want to be on your team, even an inkling he doesn't want to be, get him out of there. They get a great player. They get a second round pick, which only helps their cause. Hell, the Flyers are in a good enough spot right now that they could flip that second round pick for, I don't know, maybe Jason Dickinson, really blow up the Hawks and make a trade deadline push here. But I love that move. Cutter Gauthier is a great player. I want to see him in the NHL before thinking that he's the star that a lot of people seem to think he's going to be. What do you think, Harry?
Well, that's exactly what I would say. I mean, you got Drysdale, a guy who's got NHL, games under his belt, albeit not that many. Skates like the freaking wind. I was watching that Ducks Wings game last night because I had a bet on it. Didn't hit for those wondering. But Drysdale, man, he's like a little water bug. Like he doesn't even like he just pivots and he takes up an entire zone. It's pretty nuts. He's gonna go to a Philly team where I feel like he'll buy in, and his Torts is gonna get a little weapon here that he doesn't necessarily have on that team as of yet. This guy who's super, super mobile. You're probably talking top 20 defensemen in terms of mobility in the league. And then, like you said, the Ducks, they get Gauthier, but yeah, he led the World Juniors in points. So did Trevor Zegras. Would you say Trevor Zegras is worth Jamie Drysdale on a second round pick right now? I'd argue he's not. I mean, so we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you guys both make great points. Bowens, I echo everything you said about the Cam York thing because for the Flyers, it's just hysterical. I mean, I think they thought that one was going to pan out a little bit quicker. It's obviously not where they wanted it to be, but my initial reaction when I heard this deal was a little bit of shock because I thought Drysdale was really, really loved in Anaheim, not just by the fans, but by the staff. Like they were definitely sold on moving in the direction. And I mean, you can really build a blue line around an offensive defenseman that can move the puck that damn well. The Gauthier thing is interesting. I think, there was a lot of hype around obviously him coming out of the World Juniors, having the tournament that he did. I know Harry cashed in on a couple of goal scoring props with him, so that's great to see. Uh, yeah, this one's interesting. I really, really like what the Flyers are getting in return here, though, and I think you make a great point with Torts. But right now, I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say that on paper Philly wins this deal.
I mean, let's not forget that second round pick. That's Bowen. We were talking about this before the recording. That's going to be what, the third? You're saying like a hot
35th?
35th, mid 30s pick. I mean, that's not chump change.
Yeah.
No, that's a first rounder in most GM's eyes come trade deadline time, right? Like you're getting that low. I think the one thing I want to call out on Anaheim that I didn't really there, trading Drysdale is trading from a position of strength. Like they've still
For
got Cam
sure.
Fowler there. They've got Zellweger coming up, who I think is
Yeah.
maybe going to be as good as Drysdale.
If not a little bit better.
Yeah, Mintikov has been insane so far this year. Leno is a 2001. He's on the roster right now. Vakanainen's a 99. He's on the roster. And then Jackson Lacombe as well, also 2001, I believe. So like they've got young defensemen up and ready. So I mean, it makes sense from both sides. Like this is a trade Pat Verbeek would make, trading your small defenseman for a big American power forward who's going to crash the
Yep.
net and score some goals. It makes sense, and they're coming from a position of strength. This deal could be the very rare win-win, fellas.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I mean, the Ducks are so loaded on the back end. I completely forgot about Jackson Lacombe, which is crazy. I mean, obviously, when you think of their defensive prospects pool, I would say Zellweger's the guy that jumps out to you just because of how impressive he's been. But I mean, Lacombe obviously is a guy that has, played for a national championship and is just I mean, last time we saw him play in the national championship, I was like, this kid is NHL ready now. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Danny Briere is live talking to the media right now, so I'll keep an eye, see if he says anything juicy, but could be a win-win, fellas.
It's crazy. Just last thing for Drysdale, 21 years old. He's played 123 NHL games already. That's pretty nuts.
And with a big shoulder injury, I believe it was
Yep.
last year,
Yeah.
kept him out. Like he would be higher. His skating brought him to the NHL so early, and it'll carry him till he's 40 if he wants.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
Well said. Speaking of carrying until you're 40, Ryan Suter played in his 1400th NHL game over the weekend. He's just the 40th player ever to do so and only the fifth American to reach that milestone. I like maybe this is like a recency bias here, boys, but I just can't believe this guy is still playing in the NHL. And that's not a knock against him. It's just he's been around for so long and he's still doing it.
It's crazy. I mean, I thought he was done a handful of years ago. Like you say, he doesn't have the best foot speed, but he's physical and he knows where to be better than anybody else, right? Dallas has a system with a lot of mobile D. They move the puck quick, so having that kind of stable presence back there has worked well for them. So it's super impressive to see 1400, like you said, is absurd. Like that's crazy. Like the defensemen above him are like Al McInnes, Paul Coffey, Chara. Those are the only Tim Horton. I think those are the only D I can
Wow.
think of above him in games played. So it's super impressive. Crazy that he's still going.
I'm trying to look here. Who's the American with the most games played all time? I gotta imagine he's gonna be in striking distance. I'm seeing Modano at 1499.
Chelly. It's got to be Chelly at
Chelly
16 something.
1651.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, I don't know how old Ryan
Madonna
Suter.
at 14.99 is just like the biggest heartbreaker of all time.
Yeah. Hurts me every time.
Yeah.
Ryan Suter is 38 years old for the record. So, I mean, what could he even come close? He's got 1400. He's 251 shy, if math is correct. Yeah,
Math is correct.
251 shy. That's what, like 3.5 seasons ish? Somewhere around there, 4.
I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
he can, man.
Yeah, that's going to be pushing it.
When
Playing
you
at
put it that way,
42.
yeah.
Playing at 42 years old, I don't know.
Man,
Yeah.
and the biggest thing to me, like when we get to some of these older guys and some of the games played records, and chime in what you guys think on this, of course, but to me, there's never been more NHL caliber players than there are today. And obviously, we know the top end skill is better than it's ever been, but boys, you could take a line or two lines from a lot of AHL teams and they could play in the NHL no problem. You see it all
Or
the time
just
with call-ups right
I
now.
think
Like
the skating is what's the most impressive. Like these kids are so mobile and they're so fast. There's like 3 or 4 players that are on the Hershey Bears now that I'm like, you guys are, if you were dropped into the Caps roster today, you would be in the top 5 skaters on this team.
exactly right. And there's such an influx of talented players that I don't know how many guys will hold on past 35 anymore. Like a couple years ago, it was 38 plus, you're done. Like you're not sticking around. If you're Patty Marlowe, that's impressive. If you're Jerome McGinley, that's impressive, whatever. But man, that number is going to become 35 pretty quick because there's just so many players who could be playing in the NHL right now, but don't have the chance.
Yep.
Can I take that opportunity to praise Sid for what he's doing at 36 right now? Because
100%.
totally think he should be in the Hart conversation as of right now. So
Harry, he should be my I'm gonna pat myself on the back here as I do. My hot takes predictions on Hockey Collective before the start of the year. 2 of them have looked very good today, I've thought. Sid breaking 100 points for the first time since 2018. That
Wow.
looks very good. And Willy leading the Leafs in points. We'll see if he cools off after
damn,
the
you're
contract
cooking.
signing. But
Yeah.
man, Crosby has looked amazing this year, and he is pulling the Penguins into the playoff battle right now.
Yeah, that's yes. Like if you talk about most valuable player, like to an actual team, they'd be bottom 5 without him right now, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
I feel like we need to separate like because now Hart Trophy is essentially who do we think or who do we like more between who won the Rocket Richard and the Art Ross, because you're also going to win the Hart.
Yeah.
I feel like we need to have like a not top points MVP or some other kind of award like that at this point.
100% agree. Maybe most valuable to the city.
There you go.
You guys agree with giving best offensive defenseman a different award?
Oh,
correct?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. For sure.
We need the masses.
Just make
for
it
that
like
one.
the Bobby or Paul Coffey Memorial
Literally.
Trophy or something like that.
Literally,
like
that's
rename it.
such an easy name.
Yeah.
Like just hand it out from now on. Carlson, maybe. Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably.
Sure,
Yeah. Sore subject. I like talking about Sid better.
Moving on, the Hershey Bears, shout out to them. They did it again with their teddy bear toss. They set another franchise record as they counted 74,599. We're going to go ahead and round that one up because I have one in my bedroom that I forgot to bring there. So we're going to say 74,600 teddy bears and stuffed animals that they collected off the ice. If you're not aware of what this is, just YouTube Hershey Bears teddy bear and it'll be the first thing to come up. But the stuffed animals are collected and donated to more than 30 local and regional organizations. So shout out to the Bears once again for keeping up what I have to say is the best teddy bear toss in the game. Would you guys agree?
100%.
Probably one of the coolest sports traditions that there is, to be honest. I mean, that video is always super interesting to watch, and that's coming from a Pens fan who anything Caps organization related, I tend to kind of try to find a way to shit on, but no, it's always a really fun celebration. And when you reposted that reel on IG yesterday, I mean, it's crazy. I love how Hershey gets up for minor league hockey like that. It's awesome.
Yeah, I looked at trying to get you and I tickets like last minute for that game yesterday and on Saturday, and it's been sold out for like months. Like there was no chance in hell that that was going to happen. So,
Yep.
shout out to the Bears. Maybe you could get us in there next year.
Favorite Hershey Bear of all time, Nick, go.
Oh man, that's so tough. John Carlson.
Wow, selling out
Yeah.
for a short stay.
Yeah.
Not going with Chris Bork is a slap in the face to Chris Bork.
Chris Bork's a great one. Honestly, Jay Beagle belongs on that list. He won it in South Carolina. He won it in Hershey, and he won it with DC. So, you know.
There's a dude that I've never heard of. You might have. Mike Nikolic. 972 career games played for the Hershey Bears.
Whoa.
That's absurd. 1958 to 72. Makes
Oh
sense, I
my
guess.
goodness. Yeah, I know they're old as hell. They're basically the Yankees of the AHL. So that checks out.
That's wild.
Yeah.
All righty.
Moving on, I know that my feet would be sore after picking up 75,000 teddy bears. So I'm sure that everyone picking them up at the Hershey Bears Arena, the Giant Center, had on their Kane Footwear. Kane Footwear is changing the game by providing you with a shoe made with bounce back foam, made with Brazilian sugarcane technology. The Kane Revive is great for you, great for your body, and great for the environment. Head to the link in our bio today to pick up a pair of the most comfortable shoes you will ever own. All right, boys, let's get into some discussions here. Let's talk about the LA Kings for a second. Things were going really, really well for this team to start the year. I know a lot of us in this extended podcast family, Empty Betters Nation, I'm looking at you, Morgan Miller. We're very excited about this team's prospects this year. And while they are still good, they are in the middle of a 5-game losing streak. Their most recent loss came at the hands of the Washington Capitals on a Sunday night. Not only against the Washington Capitals during a Sunday day game, they lost to the Washington Capitals wearing blue on a Sunday day game, which for those of you listening who don't understand this, the Caps don't beat anyone when they wear blue. They usually let in 5 goals against the Oilers when we come to watch it, and it's horrible, but
let alone against the best road team in the league too.
Exactly. So what is going on with the LA Kings, boys?
Oof.
Man, for me, it's goaltending. Cam Talbot's been great, but goaltending is just such a mystery to me always. And I look at a team with cup hopes like these guys. They've got such a good offense. They just called up Brant Clark, who I think is an absolute stud. But then I look between the pipes and I see 3 names: Phoenix Copley, Big Save Dave Riddick, and Cam Talbot. Like, I'm just not confident in that. I don't know what you think, Harry, but that doesn't tickle my fancy.
Yeah, I mean, Copley, with the season-ending ACL injury, that one's a tough one. I was reading some LA Kings Insider today just to kind of prep for this. East Coast, I can't stay up past 10:30, so before I get chirped about how I don't watch Winnipeg Jets games or LA Kings games, you would 99% of the time be correct. Um, Cam Talbot on pace to start almost 60 games this season. Modern day NHL, that's a lot of starts. Started 25 of 35 this year. So all of a sudden, Big Save Dave, it's gonna get a lot more time between the pipes. If Mac were here right now, he'd probably get really excited and then give a nice little chuckle after sipping a Miller Lite. But I'm gonna go ahead and say that's not gonna fare very well for the Kings. I don't
Dude,
know. I
60
just
starts is like Vasi numbers, man.
it's a lot. I mean, that maybe back in the day that was the norm, but these days I don't know. Bowens, am I off here? Like I don't think that's really that's a lot of games.
So many games, and especially like you said, at his age, I believe he's 36 right now. Like it's crazy. And there's been 3 times in his career that we've been like, oh, Talbot's done. And now look at him, right? Like he's looked good. I just can't put a lot of stock in it.
Yeah, and even aside from the goaltending, I mean, we're gonna have to talk about this guy, Pierre-Luc Dubois, one who gets, all the trade rumors for so many years, and then he finally gets moved, gets his big ticket, and he's pretty much done nothing. And Nick, you could probably attest to that better than anybody, just because of the fantasy implications that's had on you.
Yeah, I mean, talk about trade rumors. Anybody, please trade me something for this guy because I tweeted earlier this season. Mac asked the question from our Twitter page, like, who's the cardio king? You know, who's just out there skating and not doing anything? And I said, if you like look at Pierre-Luc Dubois' fantasy score sheet, it just like goals and assists go down. It just looks like a case of dozen eggs, just zeros across the board, boys. It is so bad. And I feel so bad for this guy because I know it didn't go well towards the end for him in Winnipeg. I know he got out of there and was super excited to come to LA and everything, but for whatever reason, it's just not worked out so far. I can't really figure out what it is. I've watched a decent amount of Kings games this year, but I mean, 7 goals and 16 points through 36 games played this season is not what they brought him to LA for.
I mean, I've got to say it. I'm not a fan of Pierre-Luc Dubois. Never have been. Never will be. I don't think that he is what he is hyped up to be. I think GMs see a big, tall centerman who can skate and has a bit of finish and absolutely start drooling, foaming at the mouth, and throw him a big contract. I don't see it with him. I never have. He's chippy away from the play, like not in a good way, which drives me nuts. I don't always respect guys who are like Pierre-Luc Dubois in that regard. And I don't think he has the finish that he was touted to coming out of the draft and what we've seen in flashes. 28 goals is his career high. That was in Winnipeg a couple of years ago. He finished that year with 60 points, and it's like, okay, maybe we got something here. But beyond that, I mean, his career high is 63. So he's done 60, 61, 63. It's not worth what they're paying him in my eyes. That's just not. Like you said, he's a floater, a coaster away from the play. He's not doing much. I do think, to give him and the Kings some credit, he's a good fit for that team because they already have 2 fabulous two-way centers in Danault and Kopitar. So now you have 3 very good centers. You can shift Byfield to the middle if you want. Trevor Moore can win some draws, etc. Right? It's a good fit for their lineup card. I just don't love him as a player.
It's also a good sort of problem to have. I mean, there were teams that would kill to have that 1, 2, 3 down the middle. There are teams that would kill to have him as their third line center. So I think you make a great point that it's good for that franchise.
The Kings, as Nick mentioned, they lose Sunday night to Washington. Like he said, fifth straight loss. Also starts a 6-game road trip, which, if you're a believer in stats, that should fare well for them, considering they've been the best road team in the league this season. They're going to round out that road trip against the Lightning and the Panthers, and then they go to Detroit, Carolina, and Dallas. That is a brutal 5-game stretch. So they're definitely going to have to snap out of it before that one's over. Because if they drop, I don't think they'll drop all 5, but if they drop 3 of those 5, I mean, I don't know.
Tough swing can happen quick when you're playing teams like that. But fellas, I do want to give some love again to Brant Clark here. I don't know how much you guys have seen him, no,
Stud.
but
Absolute stud.
When he went back to the OHL last year, I made a point of going to watch him as much as I could. He ended his OHL tenure last year after playing in the NHL and the AHL, went to the OHL, 61 points in 31 games as a defenseman. A goal per game, an assist per game as a defenseman. It was absolutely absurd. There was one game I went to Mississauga to watch them. I believe they went to overtime. He finished with 4 points, and I believe, don't quote me, but you can quote me, 14 shots. He played the entirety of overtime. He generated every single scoring chance they had. I've said to buddies, I think he's the best player I've watched live outside of the NHL.
Wow.
I'm very curious if that translates to the NHL because it's a different game. You know, we said with Marner earlier, playing some junior hockey up there, right? It's different. You have to fit into the system. You have to mesh with your guys up there. You can't just be a one-trick pony or a one-man show. But outside of the NHL, man, it's him and Suzuki for me that I've watched and gone, oh, you dominate.
Yeah. He played in Barrie, right?
Barry, yeah. So he
Okay.
went back 61 points in 31, and then I believe it was 23 or 24 in 12 playoff games. So again, 2 points a game in the
Jesus
playoffs.
Christ.
Like he just
Sheesh.
too good for that league. They never should have let him through the door.
And they threw him into the NHL like pretty darn fast, right? They just said, "Hey, here, kid, let's see if you can swim or not." I'm pretty sure he held his own.
Yeah, he got 9 games right away. I think he had 2 or 3 points, nothing crazy, but I mean, at any level, that's pretty impressive, right? So, over the years, there's been some off-ice questions with him. There's been some effort questions, but man, that's bound to happen when you have that much skill. People are always going to find something to knock you on, or kind of, oh, I don't know if he's a great guy. Oh, he's a puck hog. No shit. If I could get 14 shots in an OHL game, I wouldn't pass the puck either. So, very curious to see how he does. They've got a good decor there, and I am all about that kid.
Nice. So, of course, we have to ask with this podcast, with this team being on a losing skid, how serious is this for this team? Are you at all concerned about them not making the postseason, or is it still steady as she goes towards the playoffs here for the Kings?
I think they're still a playoff team. I think we all three said this in our preseason previews. I thought they were probably the dark horse team entering this season. I mean, I know a lot of people were high on them, but everybody was talking about Edmonton and Dallas and Carolina, right? And I don't really feel like people were putting LA in the same breath as some of those tier one cup contenders. But I thought they were. I still think that they are. I will admit the goaltending definitely scares me a little bit. I know Talbot's looked really good so far, but when you're playing that many games, I don't know. I just worry about him maybe down the stretch or even in the postseason running out of gas. But we'll see.
Yeah, I still think they're a playoff team. I mean, I think from preseason predictions, I probably had the Oilers in and the Canucks not, but other than that, Vegas and LA right there. So I think they're a good team. They've somehow given up the least goals in the NHL, so they'll figure it out. They've got good veterans on that team. Like I will always bet on winners. So when you got Kopitar and Dewey kind of leading the young guys that have crashed onto that team in the last couple of years, you bet on that. They've got top tier talent up front. Kempe is a guy that has always slept on. Got to give him his credit. So they're a playoff team to me. I can't see them missing it.
I would agree. And I think the fact that they've got 4 games in hand over the Knights, who are the next notch above them in that division, is huge. The Pacific and the West sort of wild card race are starting to shape up a little bit like the East and the Metro wild card race at this point, where like if you look at the wild card standings, like teams 1 through 6 are blanketed by like 4.5 points or something ridiculous like that. So
Yeah.
I think that's something that you just keep your eye on going forward. But with the Kings having 4 games in hand over the Knights and 3 games in hand over the Canucks, I think they've got a lot of opportunity to make this ground up.
And if there's anyone colder than the Knights right or than the Kings right now, it's the Knights. I mean, they can't really seem to find their footing either. So it's good for LA.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of a team that's gone ice cold to a team that is red hot, let's go ahead and move on to the Florida Panthers. They are the hottest team in the NHL right now. They're currently on a 7-game heater. Sam Reinhart has been one of the biggest surprises of the season so far. He's got 20 goals, 22 assists, 50 points, and 39 games played, which is good enough for 3rd in the NHL in goals and 8th in points. I mean, with some of the names that are up there, you're seeing your typical McDavid, Kucherov, McKinnon. The fact that Sam Reinhart's up there has been pretty damn impressive.
It has, and I mean, credit to him. I don't think I foresaw this coming with him. He's never really shown this much of a goal scoring prowess. I believe his career high before this was 33, I think it was, and he's already at 28. So he's lighting the world on fire. And boys, he must have been licking his chops today when he saw what Nylander signed for.
Yeah, I saw those tweets and Elias Pettersson too. They're just like, oh
Yeah.
baby, here we go. But you would be correct. 33 goals career high in the 21-22 season. And like you said, he's got 28 now. I mean, that him and Barkov on that top line. I know they had Erod slotted up in there on the wing with them, but no matter who's with them, that line with those two has got to be top three of the NHL right now. I mean, there's no way you could probably argue that. And if you're into like Corsi ratings, this is a little like off topic, but there's little player cards that people come out with. Jay Fresh on Twitter, most famous for his, but there's a couple other accounts that do some too. Alex Barkov is like 99% in every statistical category that you could possibly imagine with any division stat that you want to make your own mathematical concoction with. They are clicking right now. So definitely got
Barkov's
to give
sneaky in the
props.
heart this year. He's sneaky in the heart
Yeah.
because he's been amazing. But again, guy that doesn't get his flowers, like you said, Harry.
Yeah, for sure.
And Bob. I mean, Bob looked decent. Nothing like crazy, but like I almost feel like with Bob, that's kind of what you hope for because he goes through these super hot stretches, and then it's like, oh my God, how are they paying him this much money? Last year he kind of shut that up, but third in the NHL in wins, 911 save percentage, a 2.45 GAA. I mean, they'll take that to the bank any day.
No, I think
I've
with Bob, as long as that save percentage is north of 900, you're happy. You're fine. That's a win for me.
100%. I found myself clicking on him every time I filled in one of the NHL All-Star voting ballots. I don't want to. I don't want to put Bob on there. And then I look at the numbers and I'm like, well, I guess Bob's going to the All-Star game. He's been good this year. So
Yeah.
shout out to him.
Yeah, a little upcoming schedule for the Cats. They got the Blues, the Kings, the Devils, and the Ducks. All four teams pretty vulnerable right now, to be honest. So, maybe they make that 7-game heater into an 11-gamer by the time we record next. Who knows?
There you go. There's a lot of points up for grab there.
Do you guys already
Absolutely.
touch on BX's comments about Nick Cousins or no?
Oh no, we didn't. But if you want to bring that up, I didn't. To be honest with you, I didn't watch the clip. I saw it, but I didn't have the chance to watch it.
No, it wasn't anything too crazy other than, BX is he's a guy who played rough tumble hockey too, right? Like he played in the gray area, but he was an honest player. He's never a dirty player. I don't think anybody would say that. And he basically said like, hey, I've never shit on a guy on TV before, but I'm gonna have to because this Nick Cousins is playing like a rat and we don't want to see this in the game. So I'm sure you guys have covered the hits, but wanted to throw that in there because it's gotten a little bit out of hand with what certain guys are getting away with right now.
And I think like what we talked about that a little bit last week. Mac brought him up, and basically what we're saying is like if you're gonna run someone, that's sort of how the game works. I don't want to say that's fine, but let's be real, that's fine. Just answer the bell.
Brendan
Like
Smith.
right, when it comes time to like, drop them and let's go and let's answer for it, you got to answer for it. When he had his two incidents and then like turtled on both of them this season, it's like, okay, now everyone's going to jump on you a little bit. If you can't pay the time, or if you can't, pay the time, don't do the crime. So like, just stand up and take it, man. I mean, that's all we're asking.
It's all about
100%.
answering the bell. I totally agree with that. Like you
Yeah.
said, Brendan Smith, and I just like virtually clicked on the camera like 30 times if you're on YouTube watching. So
100%. And Cousins is a good dude. Another noted HC follower. I feel like I'm slipping them all into this episode here.
There you go.
He's a good dude. Teammates love him. Like he's a beloved guy. But at some point, if you're Kachuk or Ekblad or hell, even Barkov in that room, you got to say, all right, let's take a step back here. Let's tone it back. I don't want to get in the scrum every time you feel like not getting in one. So,
Right.
reel it in a little bit. We need you on the ice.
Yeah. When you spill this milk, you clean it up, man. It's not falling on me anymore.
Exactly.
All right, moving on. We're going to do some halfway point hot takes at this point in the NHL season. We're right around the 40 game mark, which is just about halfway for everyone. So, Harry, I'm going to go to you first.
whoa,
What?
whoa, whoa, whoa. Let me go second or last. I
Okay.
hang on. But I want to hear Bowens
All
first.
right, let's go to Bowens first. Do you have a scorching hot, halfway hot take for this season?
I man, I was trying to come up with something really juicy, and I I feel like I'm gonna let down the fans here, but I don't have anything too crazy. I've got two that I want to mention and one that we already did, which really sucks for me not coming super prepared. I wanted to say Barkov for the heart, and I kind of spilled my beans a couple minutes ago there. Alexander Barkov, like you said, Harrison, has been absolutely amazing for this Florida Panthers team, who I believe all three of us said on the preseason episode that they probably would miss the playoffs. They're
I
definitely
confirm.
not going to miss the playoffs, and Barkov is doing his part so well to get them there. So I wanted to sprinkle that one in. The other one, curious what you guys think. Connor Bedard, say he misses a month, maybe 5 weeks. I've seen 4 to 6 places. So 5 weeks, call it 15-ish games. I think he still wins the Calder Trophy, despite how much we hyped up the Calder race this year. That's my hot take. 15 plus games missed from Bedard, and he still wins the Calder.
Wow.
Wouldn't be surprised, to be honest.
Yeah, amen to that.
Yeah, it's not as hot as I would have liked for this episode. It's kind of like a medium, but it's pretty crazy when we think about the hype coming into the season. Oh my God, we got Carlson, Fantilli, we got Levi, we got Faber's in the mix now. All of a sudden, there's a bunch of guys. Chekhov you could put in the mix for crying
Sure.
out loud. So I think if he wins, it'll be very interesting because if we hop in the time machine here, McDavid didn't win in his rookie year. It went to a guy who played almost every game in Panarin, right? So
Wow, I forgot that they were rookies the same year. I guess because like the age difference, but still crazy.
big age difference.
This one is always a fun one for me. I always see who I can piss off the most when I do these. I'm just kidding. Last year when we did this, it was me, Mac, and our friend the Daily Over, one of the best gambling follows on Twitter. And I sat up here in early January and I said Connor Bedard will be a St. Louis Blue. Now, obviously, that's kind of that was a hot take. Also, you throw in the lottery odds and all that, but I really thought the Blues were going to absolutely sink. And they didn't. I mean, I don't know. This year, I want to try and get a team who's I think is going to maybe go on a heater instead of being a little negative. I This isn't really a hot take, but as of right now, if you look at the standings, I mean, Tampa, they're not in a playoff spot right now. They're what, 1 point out. They really haven't played all that great up to this point this year. 5-5 in their last 10. Vasi, since coming back from injury, he's had glimpses of playing really good, glimpses of playing really bad. Stammer contract year. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot riding here for Tampa. A lot of people are writing them off. They're not talking about them. So I will make my hot take not as hot as last year, but I'm going to say Tampa's going to end up getting into the playoffs, and I think they will make the Eastern Conference Finals.
Okay.
That's my
So the
hot
Bolts
take.
gone another little run here.
No,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
No, listen,
Hard
I don't want
pass.
it. I don't want it either. But I mean, if I have to go hot, like, do I think they'll make the playoffs? Yes. Do I think they'll make the third round? Probably not, but got to do it. So
All
we're getting
right, so
bold.
you know Breezeball is going to make a move. What are they looking for at the deadline? What do you think they need to get them to that point?
When I look at Tampa, I'm saying, all right, Kucherov's playing out of his mind,
Yeah.
right? So that, and I don't really necessarily think that they need too much offense. Maybe a defenseman, maybe a mobile defenseman. I feel like they've got a lot of guys who are like big lugs. You got Chernak, shot blocker, Hedman. He doesn't. I won't want to. I don't want to say he's regressing. He's still unbelievable, but I just feel like they need one of those like 5'10", shifty kind of obviously Quinn Hughes is incredible, but one of those kind of guys, or like a Drysdale, like one of those
Eric
guys who's
Gustafson.
that. So like that would be a really that would make too much sense, right? I mean, I don't know what New York would give back, but those two teams have traded a bunch in the past, so why not? I mean,
Dude, they trade
Gustafson.
more than college freshmen who live in the same dorm. It's just back and forth with those two teams.
Do either of you guys have Tampa's lines in front of you right now?
I do.
Damn it. It's going to quiz you on their 6D right now because I would not have got three of them.
Yeah, that
Uh,
that bottom pair is
what do you got? I mean,
you ever
obviously,
played the game Guess Who? Because I don't know who either of those guys are.
rip it. Let me hear it.
Jack
Jack Thompson.
Thompson
He's
and
good.
Emil Martinson Lilleberg.
It sounds like a in and out order or something. I don't know what's going on
Yeah.
there.
I've never heard of Martinson. if that's his name. Jack Thompson is good. He was a pretty early pick, played in Sudbury in the O. He'll be a good player for them.
That's
Perbix,
right.
I always forget that dude exists as well.
Yup.
So yeah, I mean Calvin DeHaan, Darren Radish, Victor Hedman, because I believe Sergachev is still out, right?
Yeah, and
And
so
Hayden
is Hayden
Fleury
Fleury.
and Chernak.
Yeah, no, I mean, three of their six defensemen are out, so that even makes more sense. I watched one of their games last week, and I was like half on my phone, half watching. I was noticing, I was like, what the fuck's going on with their defense? Looked up the injuries, but Augustuson would make a lot of sense. I don't know. Just saying.
I think he's been arguably the best value deal in the NHL this year. I don't think the Rangers would be chomping at the bit to move him, but that is a perfect example of what Tampa could use right now.
And
Yeah,
Laviolette clearly likes him. So
Yeah.
he
yeah, they're not.
continues to, he's brought him in twice now. So
They probably won't move him, I would agree, but I'll go with Tampa as my hot take. I feel like they're a team that could make some noise. I also would say I don't know. I'm up and down on Pitt on Pitt, but lately they've looked pretty good, so we'll see.
I love that they are plus 24 goal differential last time I looked, at least. That to me, goal differential is the biggest tell. They're a good team. They have had some really bad games. They've had some really bad performances by certain players. Crosby playing the way he is, I think they're gonna make the playoffs, man. I do.
Nick, you're up.
all right, boys. Yeah, the Dallas Stars are going to make the Stanley Cup final out of the West. I
Okay.
think if they get competent goaltending, like Ottinger comes back healthy, focused, ready to go. Heiskanen, I know he's banged up right now. He comes back healthy, focused, ready to go. I don't see any reason why that team can't make the Stanley Cup final. They lost in the Western Conference Finals to Vegas the previous year. The year before that, they went out in the first round. I think a lot of people are sleeping on how dangerous this team can be, especially I will die on this hill that Colorado is not a sure thing coming out of the West, especially in that Central with Winnipeg as good as it is. The Stars are in third place right now in that division. They've got 2 games in hand and they're 4 points behind the Avs. I don't think that's anything crazy that they could catch and then pass them because the Avs can't keep the puck out of their own net and the Stars can. Let's talk about center depth for a second here. Rupe Hintz, Matt Duchene, Wyatt Johnson, Sam Steele, right down the middle. I love that.
Solid.
Especially the bottom two in the playoffs. I know Sam Steele was sort of like brought in like, oh, young skill guy from the Ducks. This will be fun. This is exciting. I think he's had an unreal start to this season. Um, these top 2 lines, Robertson, Hintz, Pavelski is 1, Marchment, Duchene, Sagan is 2. I really love both of those. I think come playoff time, those are sort of proven lines at this point that they can score in the postseason. I don't know, call it a gut feeling, call it a forced hot take, whatever you want. I think this team is going to the Stanley Cup final out of the West.
No, I love that team. Obviously need Ottinger and Heiskanen to get healthy. That's going to be the key for them in the second
Yep.
half. We need those boys healthy come playoff time because, like you said, they're making the playoffs. To me, that's a team with some veterans that they know how to give 92%, just enough to get them to the playoffs. They're not run and gun 100% every game. They're going to get to the playoffs. They're a well-coached team. They play really well in the system. Wyatt Johnson is an unreal player. Get him in your book ASAP. But Matt Duchene to me is the piece that really I like about what they did. That is a piece that getting him in for so cheap, the type of dude that he is, the way that he plays, that is just such a good fit for me in the locker room and on the ice. That's a big piece.
Yeah, Nick, I feel like ever since we've started this show, we're always like, Dallas, this could be it. This could be it. And then you had the bubble. I don't really know how you want to like categorize that, but I think they're due. I think Pavelski's probably the most deserving guy in the league to hoist a cup. I mean, I would love to see him do that. And I'm trying to think. I was just noticing this. DeBoer, like, has he ever coached anywhere where he hasn't gone to a Stanley Cup final?
I remember seeing that like when he took that job or when he left Vegas or whatever, they were saying like all this guy does is get teams to go the distance.
Vegas, San Jose.
Right.
Didn't he have a stint in Jersey where he did that?
I don't know if that was him or not. I can't remember.
I can't remember either, but I feel like he goes to the Cup final everywhere he goes. Not,
Yeah,
not
and the only place I can think of that he didn't was Kitchener in the O, and they won a Mem Cup. So,
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
but
Wasn't he
hey,
the Panthers coach for a hot minute, or am I thinking of someone else?
he was
Okay.
2010, maybe a couple years before that. He went right from Kitchener to Florida.
Okay. Yeah. So he definitely didn't do it then, but then again, I don't think anyone could have taken that
S-
Florida era team to a Stanley Cup final.
So he went from Kitchener to Florida, and then obviously Florida didn't go to the Cup. But then he did coach New Jersey when they lost to that was the Kovalchuk Parise year. Who'd they lose?
The
The
Kings.
Kings. Yeah. And then he took the Devils, the Sharks, and the Knights all to the Cup finals. See if he can do that for Dallas here.
So he has yet to win one as a coach.
Correct. He's lost 3 Cup finals, which that's pretty
Nice.
brutal.
Hey man, I don't know about you guys, but I'd just take getting there at this point.
Yeah, not a bad life.
But you touched on the 2020 playoffs there and the bubble final. The last two teams we talked about, the Stars and Bolts. Fellas, a little plug to younger me. I bet both of those teams to win the cup. Those were the two teams I bet on before
Wow.
Oh,
COVID that year. Of course, Tampa won, who I had maybe a fifth of the money on that I had on Dallas. But when COVID ended and that bubble came back, and my two teams that I'd placed a bet on basically a year before at that point were in the cup final, you couldn't shut me up.
I love that. I love that a lot. Yeah, I've never really had like a future that has hit big like that. That would be a good one.
I do a team from the East and a team from the West every year just for
That's
fun.
smart.
I mean, that's the only time it's ever been remotely close, but
Yeah.
it's good. I think this year was Rangers and Edmonton, so not looking
Nice.
great either.
Nice.
No, well, I mean, Edmonton's kind of come alive here. I don't know. You and the Rangers, I mean, I'd say out of the East, they're probably my favorite to make the Cup.
Yeah, we'll see. Knock on wood.
They're my favorite, least favorite to make the cup. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk some more gambling chatter, but before we do, just a reminder, this gambling segment is brought to you by Prop Tracker. Prop Tracker is your home for player prop research and finding outlier bets for NHL, NBA, NFL, and more. Once you find a bet you like, start tracking it to get notified on its progress, like shots, rebounds, or receptions. Go to proptrackerapp.com/emptybetters to try a free month of the Android or iOS app. Just a reminder, the word tracker does not have the letter E in it. So it is PROPTRACKR app.com/empty betters. That is a great app to use with wildcard weekend coming up in the NFL. I know everyone's going to be glued to their television, betting their butts off. So that should be a very useful app for you, especially for the Buffalo Bills Miami game. I'm eyeing that one up specifically. All right. Not a whole lot here, but just gonna rerun through the top 5 over 6.5 teams so far this season. Jersey coming in at 1, 25 times it's hit. Detroit coming in at 2, also 25. Vancouver coming in at 3, and they actually just hit it while we're recording this against the Rangers, putting a 5-2 pounding on them in MSG. And then we got Dallas and CBJ rounding out that top 5. And then 1 point prop in particular, and I know I texted the boys this the other day. Jonathan Drouin has points in 8 of his last 10. Probably find that at about -130 on average. He's clicking right now, so definitely keep an eye out for him.
That's a good one. And I mean, couldn't be happier for that guy. Absolutely, deserved it. Has put in a lot of work to get back to where he is. So, yeah, happy for that dude.
Yeah, for sure. So, Nick, the floor is yours for the World Juniors.
It was a great tournament, boys. Just what a great tournament here. Let's go ahead and recap. Bowens, I'll go to you. Just initial reactions. Obviously, we're going to have some different ones, but I do have to give you credit. You called this when we were talking about this at the very beginning of this tournament. You absolutely nailed it. You said it was going to come down to Sweden and the States. So, aside from Canada, we'll get to them in a second, but overall tournament impressions.
Tournament was great. There was some upsets almost every day, if not every other, which is all that you can ask for. I think everybody knows and accepts that the gap is closing around the world between teams, not even just with Canada, US at the top, like between every team, the gap is closing. We saw Germany with some upsets. We saw Germany get spanked. Like it goes both ways, right? So great tournament overall, lots of great players. Like I said earlier, there's so many players that are NHL ready or could be playing in the NHL right now, from Gauthier to Lekkerimäki to Axel Sandin, Pellikka, like the list goes on and on. I always love seeing the guys that we don't get to see, even if we know the names, like Michael Bransing Nygaard. That
Yep.
guy is a great player. Consta Helenius, he didn't put up a ton of points, but he's going to be a first rounder. He had so many like good advanced stats in the tournament. So, man, it was a good tournament. Like you said, I felt it was going to be Sweden US. I did a video where I said that and said Canada's back-to-back golds would come to an end, and boy, did I get hate for that. So. Thank you for coming out now, but I mean, obviously, I'd love the red and white to be on top.
Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy tournament, and I think, to your point of this gap has closed, I can't think of a better example for how much it's closed than just Finland as a hockey country as a whole. Like obviously that they have been so prevalent on the world stage going back, I would say what, 20, 30, 40 years now, but to see just anytime they ice a team, they're going to absolutely try and run you through the wall, grind you down, stick you in the corner, and you give them three chances, they're going to score three times. It's just unbelievable to see.
It's awesome, and I mean the Finns play a good brand of hockey. Um, it just works in bigger ice in these tournaments when you don't know what the officiating is going to be. All those things we hear from Canada and US, right? Finland's play style just works. So, yeah, Finland's been great. I believe Kitchener's head coach right now, who's making a lot of waves. I'm forgetting his name, but he's from Finland, and the way that he coaches, the way they play in Finland. Kitchener is one of the best teams in the OHL right now. They have the three highest scorers. Like it's just a very succinct way that the Finns play hockey. It's good to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's a pleasure to get exposed to some of those guys that are now coming, to North America to either obviously play junior or Ministo plays at Michigan State. So I've been able to watch a bunch of his games. And I mean, oh my God, from watching him play NCAAs, I've been like, I'm absolutely going to go out of my way to watch this guy at the World Juniors because he's unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's awesome to see, and like you said, the gap between every level is just so much tighter that, man, I'm excited for next year already. Like, a lot of people don't like the World Juniors because some people are so harsh on them and their kids and this and that. And, it goes that way sometimes for sure, especially when Canada is disappointing like they are. I'm never going to shit on an 18-year-old kid. Same as I'm never going to shit on the Americans for celebrating the way they did, right?
Thank you.
It was emotional. Guess what? They're 18-year-olds. They're emotional. Like that's the way it goes, man. That's why we like watching that. That's why people like watching college football, because it's
Yep.
emotional. It's kids who are trying to figure out how to play the game still. It's not coached up X's and O's perfectly perfect every time, right? There's drama, there's emotion. That's what college football is. That's what junior hockey is. That's why I love the World Juniors. So I'm never going to take that away from those kids. It's an honor for them to be there, and it's a great tournament to watch.
Well said, Bones. Very well said.
Thank
You're
you.
wearing your country's colors. You're 18 years old. You're playing on the world's biggest stage. Yeah, have a night. Go after it.
Man, 100%. And like, I don't know about you guys, it's obviously a little bit different in Canada, just growing up with the
Sure.
culture of World Juniors a little bit. But man, when I was a kid, I didn't care about playing for the Leafs. I wanted to play for Team Canada at the World
Right.
Juniors. Like, I watched that Crosby Bergeron team in 03, 04, whatever it was. I watched Marc-Andre's neon yellow pads with the red jerseys. Ryan Ellis was my favorite player as a kid because he was
Unreal.
so good at the World Juniors. Like,
Yeah.
I loved the Leafs. I loved Ovechkin, but when push come to shove, like I was in it for the World Juniors. That is the best time of year, and that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a World Junior player. Obviously wasn't, but
Yeah, fair enough. A little fun fact just for the NHL impact on the World Juniors. St. Louis, Arizona, and Buffalo, those were the three teams that sent the most prospects to the tournament. All three of those teams sent seven prospects. Some combined stats for you for those three teams. St. Louis, their seven players combined for 44 points and came out as plus 30. Arizona had 11 points total, two goalies in there, and Buffalo had 34 points total, one goalie included in there. So St. Louis, I mean, goddamn, they've got some weapons coming up.
They sure do. Dalibor Dvorsky, maybe my favorite of the bunch. That guy's going to be a great player. He's in Sudbury in the O right now. I really wish Buffalo sent an eighth guy named Zach Benson. That would have been lovely. But 7 players is very impressive. And yeah, I mean, I think of Arizona, Buffalo as having high picks, stocking up the cupboards. But to see St. Louis there with 7 guys, super impressive by Doug Armstrong.
For sure. You mentioned a little bit earlier, the controversy. I don't even want to call it a controversy, but the uproar online about the Americans' celebration during their gold medal game in Sweden. Obviously, the tournament was in Sweden this year. Just want to get your overall impressions on what was led up, I would say, the previous minute and 20 seconds towards the end of that game. It obviously got chippy. You obviously had some punches being thrown. Just from a neutral party, what was your input on that situation?
Yeah, neutral party, man. Like I said, it's emotional. It's emotional. It's supposed to be. That's why we like it. That's why we enjoyed it. That was more talked about than any other moment of the game or of the tournament. So, you know what? It's hockey. It's emotional. It is what it is. I didn't love, I forget his name. Maybe it was Janssen on Sweden coming in there and throwing punches. I don't know if you guys saw, but that the dude who started it had 2 minutes of ice time in the game, I believe. So,
Yeah.
like, if you're gonna be that guy and yes, you're sad you're losing, you're on home ice. I didn't love that being what started it all, but it's emotional, man. It's the way it's supposed to be, and that's what we love about the tournament.
So I think really the only issue I had with what went on towards the end of the game was, and I don't know the Swedish player's name off the top of my head, but whoever was punching Lane Hudson when he was being grabbed by the official, he was basically reaching over the official to do it, which if you did that in the NHL would get you killed, but obviously it being IIHF is not going to happen. That was really the only exception I had to it. I saw, there was some not so pleasant exchanges between the two teams in the handshake line afterwards, but it is what it is. You mentioned it. It's emotional. It's intense. Speaking of, let's talk about Canada for a second. Just overall impressions on what went down there.
Uh, dude, it wasn't the best team. Um, and that's not a knock on the guys who were there. That is the simple fact of 5 years ago. If you looked at the players, I don't know what the year was, 2004, 2005, whatever age group this is. Bedard, you would think would be there. Fantilli, you'd think would be there. Benson, you'd think would be there. Korchinski could have been there. The list goes on and on, right? So,
And all those guys could have been there too, which is the
yeah,
crazy thing.
they could have for sure. And honestly, it's a conversation for another day. I probably would have sent Fantilli. I would have said, go score 30 points. We're not doing anything here in Columbus. Like, get your confidence back, brother. Go have fun.
Go play
But
against children for a week.
yeah, like it just if you looked at the tournament 2 years ago, the team on paper for Canada would have been a lot different. And is that a reason or an excuse? No, but it's the truth. The best players from that year were in the NHL. Kudos to them. That being said, there's a lot of good Canadian hockey players still, and not all of them were at that tournament. Jagger Firkus is one of the best players in the entire CHL, and for him to get the call mid-tournament to fly 8+ hours to Sweden is ridiculous. That guy should have been on the team from the start. Tristan Leno getting sick right before the tournament, that was a big loss. Forgetting the other defenseman's name. Moldendijk, he would have been a big piece too. Like that's 2 legit defensemen who would have been on that team that got sick the week before the tournament or injured. But yeah, man, the product on the ice wasn't good enough. They didn't shoot the puck. There was a stat that came out from a Hockey Canada brass member that said like they had 30 plus chances to shoot the puck on net in their final game, and they didn't. So, you know, got to get back to the basics a little bit. Colby Armstrong had a great bit about like they're just dipsy doodling around the outside. They don't want to get to the net, and that's exactly what it is, man. Canadian hockey, the Ryan Ellis teams we're talking about, those were you knew exactly how Canada was going to play, and they did it to a T. This year, they look like every other country, and when it's that level of a playing field, you're bound to lose.
Yeah, it seemed like everyone this year just like wanted to basically be Bedard, get the puck at the top of the circles, pull it into their feet and shoot for the top corner. And there was at least 3 or 4 times where the Americans were doing that. I was like, okay, there has to be a better look than this. Like, let's, get it together here, boys. Let's go. So I'm glad to hear you say that. Did it feel to you that it was coming off the rails. I know this is crazy, but there seemed to be a little bit of, I don't want to say panic, but anxiety around the group stage loss. Do you think that factored into how the medal round sort of went down for them?
100%. I think they didn't look like a dominant, great team at any point in the tournament. And again, I'm not trying to knock on these kids. They're 18, 17, 19 years old, whatever. Like it's bound to happen. It's a tournament, whatever. We all move on. But yeah, they weren't the best team at any point in the tournament. And for one of the first times in my life, I had several like close buddies who we all watched the World Juniors together who just didn't watch games in the tournament because this team just didn't have the jam or the juice this year. So, like I said, I think they'll bounce back next year and have a better effort because they're going to need to. I know a number of guys on that team. Fraser Minton, noted Hockey Collective follower as well. The head coach, Alan Letang, he worked in On Sound when I did, the head therapist, trainer as well. So there's a lot of good people on that team. It's not to knock on them, but the result isn't a surprise to those who watched game by game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tournament comes home for you guys to Ottawa next year, and then home for us the following year. It's going to be in St. Paul and Minneapolis, which is going to be awesome to see. Glad to have it back in North America just for the sake of, time change. That'll make things a lot easier for us. So should be a fun next two couple of years. We'll go ahead and move on to trivia here, and then we'll get everyone out of here and on your way. We just want to remind everyone that trivia is, as always, brought to you by Elwood's. Support your local dive bar and have a beer at Elwood's Liquor and Tap, home of the Pizza Luge. Located in the heart of downtown Milwaukee on Water Street, the 70s-inspired bar has a little something for everyone. From daily happy hour, rotating taps, free birthday perks, a Four Seasons patio, a good time is always around the corner. With the full NHL package plus TV screens indoors and outdoors, hockey fans can watch the game anywhere, anytime. By the way, you should check out this awesome poster they have in the bathroom. I heard like 3 really cool guys are on that. I don't know, but
Yeah, while you're taking a piss, you can sit that. Look at our faces. It's awesome.
exactly. It's
Exactly what I want to do.
exactly while you're rocking one. But all right, boys, quick trivia question for you here today. On this day, January 8th, 2008, this player made history during the Red Wings 1-0 win versus the Colorado Avalanche. At 45 and 348 years young, he became the second oldest player to appear in an NHL game. The only player to ever play in a league game older than this player was Gordie Howe for the Whalers in 1980 at the age of 52. Who is it?
I'll let Mr. Guest Bowins go first, and I know he's going to get it.
I don't want that pressure, but I think we said his name earlier in the podcast.
You did.
Was it Mr. Chris Chelios?
It was the
There you
tan
go.
Greek god himself, Chris Chelios.
Ding,
The-
ding, ding.
The sauna biker.
Yeah.
Now, usually these segments drag for probably close to 10 minutes. I'm wondering if Mac is giving us unfair prompts because that was a good one, Nick. It was enough where it was like, all right, I'll think a tiny bit, but I kind of knew after you read the second half.
I
Whereas
felt
Mac,
like that one was going to go relatively quickly. Like I don't know if that's faith in the team I'm working with today. I mean, maybe Max got some less faith when I'm the one guessing it, but yeah, I mean, you think like players who played a long ass time, I feel like you inevitably go to, well, Gordie Howe played with 2 of his kids like multiple times, and then Chelios just played until he was like 45. That's insane.
Yeah, nuts.
it's like the equivalent of Nick giving a little multiple choice difficulty, whereas Mac is like, here's your free response. Go at it. Write me an
Right.
essay.
It's like the SAT where each one you get wrong is like minus a quarter of a point instead of just not counting.
Yeah. I didn't even have to ask for a hint, so I feel good about myself today.
Hey, that's a win. We'll take it.
Would
There you
Elwoods
go.
appreciate a second trivia question from something I was looking at earlier?
Yeah, hit us.
Ooh, they love that.
All right, I'm going to read you 4 of the top 5 goal scorers in the NHL today. We've got Austin Matthews at 30, Nikita Kucherov at 28, Sam Reinhart at 28, Artemi Panarin at 25. Who is the other fine gentleman with 25 goals in the NHL so far this season?
Ooh. I don't have it up. I know I was looking at that earlier, so I kind of might have an idea, but I'll go first guess. Is it Mikko Rantanen?
Not a good enough idea, my friend. He's not
Hmm.
even on the first page top 10 here.
Wow. He's up there in points, so he
Yep.
must be racking the assists this year. Nick, what do you think?
I know we talked about him earlier. I know it's not Sam Reinhart because I think we said he was 8th on that list.
I just said him yesterday.
Oh,
He's
right.
20.
Oh, he
He's
was
28,
third.
tied for
Yeah.
second or third. Yeah.
Is it Pasta?
Pasta's one behind at 24. So
Oh.
is Brock Besser, Nathan McKinnon, Sidney Crosby, Carter Verhaeghe. All have 22. The man in which you guys were looking for 25 goals, Leafs legend, Zach Hyman.
No way.
Wow, yeah. There's been a lot. I've seen some shit online about like the Olympic roster debate or whatever they
He's
want to
there,
call it
man.
these days.
He's there.
Yeah, no, all the Chris Kunitz comparisons coming up, and I'm like, hey, if the guy's playing, I don't know, don't knock it. I was gonna guess JT Miller is my other one, but
Ooh, good guess too. But yeah,
cool down a little bit.
that's my trivia.
That is insane. I never would have gotten that.
We would have been here for a long time.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's having a hell of a year. But alrighty, appreciate you joining us, Bowins. As always, it's always a good time.
Good to talk hockey, fellas. Thanks for having me on, and yeah, good luck to the Caps and Pens, I suppose.
I suppose. Yeah, I just want to give a big F you to NHL Network for not letting me watch the game tonight. If you know, you know. Look at my Twitter. I cannot believe this network is still in business. That's all I got to say. Nick, you got any final words?
I thought you'd be watching your new favorite college football team attempt to win in the national championship here. So
I think I'm gonna need a little JJ McCarthy meditation on how to get NHL Network off my fucking TV screen. This is
There you go.
outrageous, but yeah. If you want to follow along for Mac's Indianapolis journeys, go follow him on Twitter as well. I'm sure there's gonna be some interesting tweets as the night goes on while he's there. So
for sure.
all right, everybody, we appreciate the love and support as always. We'll be back with you next week. And without further ado,
Class dismissed.